Shri Tripura Rahasyam MahatmyaKhandam Chapter 17. The Hurripleting War went on for a muhurta, 48 minutes. Chitrasena, riding on a horse, struck Bhima with 3 arrows and broke his bow in the middle by a mighty arrow. Then Bhima hurled a pad bolt at the Gandharva lord. The skilled Chitrasena cut off with a sharp arrow that weapon which was approaching him, and with 4 feathered arrows killed the 4 horses of Bhima, and with another arrow destroyed the crown of the charioteer and killed him and rode like a lion. Losing his horse and chariot, Bhima, burning with anger, gave a hard blow with a mace to Chitrasena's horse. Hit by the mace, the horse, bleeding, with its head split, died after touching Chitrasena, who had fallen down from the horse. Understanding that Bhima was strong, Chitrasena disappeared and created a perplexing magic that showered stones, weapons, serpents, evil spirits, heaps of skulls, blood, embers, and whirlwind on Bhima wherever he has moving. Seeing that witchcraft cast by the Gandharva, Bhima ejected into the sky an anti-magical missile which destroyed in no time the great magic of Chitrasena. Bhima saw Chitrasena rushing towards him. Just as Shiva hit Andhakasura with his trident, Bhima with the mace hit Chitrasena on his head. Thus Chitrasena fell on the ground as if dead, and was carried away by a Gandharva to save his life. Viravrata directed weapons and missiles towards Vasus. The Vasus also showered arrows in the battlefield, but Viravrata, pushing away those arrows, shot 3 feathered arrows at each of the Vasus, hitting their legs, chest, and head respectively. The wounded and enraged Vasus simultaneously, with all their mighty, shot arrows that filled the war field. Then Viravrata wounded their chest with sharp, speedy arrows stretched up to the ears. Injured by the mighty arrows, all the Vasus fell unconscious. But Savitra, using 3 arrows, broke to pieces in a short time to the charioteer, and horses of Viravrata. Then Viravrata flew like a bird and hit with his sword the crown of Savitra, which broke into 2 pieces. Angry at the breaking of his crown, Savitra struck Viravrata on his head with a bolt, by which he fell unconscious. Lying unconscious for a while, Viravrata rose and with the mace struck Savitra violently, who fell bleeding. Virasena battled with Agni for a long time and hit him hard on his head with the strong sword, by which Agni, who was drenched in blood, flared up with fury and threw his spear Shakti at Virasena to kill him. Seeing that thunderbolt like burning weapon, Virasena quickly dispatched a water missile, whereupon the burning weapon subsided. Virasena quickly dispatched a water missile, whereupon the burning weapon subsided. Then Agni, seeing his Shakti destroyed by Virasena, with anger again cut to pieces all the weapons of Virasena by sharp arrows. Having lost all his weapons, Virasena hit Agni with his raised fist, by which Agni dropped on the ground. Then Virasena, pressing with his arms the chest of Agni, brought him to the city and tied him with strong ropes invoked with freezing chants. Viravikrama fought fiercely with Vayu by showering arrows and roaring like a lion. Destroying immediately that rain of arrows by counter arrows, Vayu hit Viravikrama in his chest with a huge goad. Beaten by the goad, his chest was split and bled, and he trembled for a moment, and with roving eyes fell unconscious. Again gaining unconscious, Again gaining consciousness, he pulled out with great effort the goad that had gone into his chest and hit Vayu with it. Vayu, hit by his own goad, fell as if dead on the ground with his head broken. Viravikrama, unable to bear the pain caused by the impact of the goad, dropped down bleeding too much. Even Vayu was bleeding from his head, and both of them became unconscious. Shatrunjaya intensely battled with Kubera. Shatrunjaya was seated in a chariot. Kubera was on a human being. Both skilled in handling missiles and experts in archery displayed mutually their skills and fought for a long time. Then Shatrunjaya spoke to Kubera. O Kubera, why this delay? Show your ultimate strength, if not become aware that this great arrow will knock down your life. Hearing Shatrunjaya, the mighty Kubera destroyed his arrow set bow with a sharp arrow, and with 4, 3, and 3 arrows cut off the horses, the charioteer, and the flag, respectively, and roared like a lion after killing an elephant. O valiant Shatrunjaya, I have come to know about your commendable strength. Come here. If you do not, this will be your last moment in life. Enraged by the words of Kubera, Shatrunjaya hit with his raised mace the human being. The carriage of Kubera struck by the mace, he fell down unconscious. Then he severely pounded the diamond hard mace on Kubera's head, by which Kubera lost his consciousness for a moment. Meanwhile, the strong Shatrunjaya snatched Kubera's bow and broke it. After gaining consciousness and seeing his broken bow, Kubera, with angry red eyes, picked up his mace. Then Shatrunjaya said, O friend, listen to me. There is no one on earth who is equal to me in mace fight. I will tell you what my teacher of weapon had told me. After giving me exceptional training in mace fight, he said that there is no match for me in this world, and if I defeat Kubera, it would be great. Today I have got a chance to see your mace and fight with you, the Lord of Riches. Show me your extraordinary strength in mace fight. Hearing Shatrunjaya, Kubera consented and started to fight with him. Both Shatrunjaya and Kubera were well trained and skilled in mace fight. Both were strong and haughty like lions. They both revolved in a circle, sometimes moving to the left and then to the right, sometimes unevenly, half unevenly, straight, equally bent, half bent, jumping, half jumping, unevenly jumping, flying, half flying, leaping, swan walking. Thus, both of them, experts in the movements, exhibited all types of strategies adopted in mace war. Waiting for a chance to hit each other, they appreciated mutually because of their knowledge about starting movements. Like brisk balls, their movement was not noticeable. The Siddhas and Charanas who were watching their mace fight exclaimed, Oh, what a great fight! And appreciated their skill through gestures. After fighting for a long time with Shatrunjaya, Kubera opined that Shatrunjaya was superior to him in mace fighting. Then Kubera flew in the air and raised his mace to hit. Seeing that, Shatrunjaya trickled away from that unfailing Kubera. Knowing that Kubera unrighteously hit Shatrunjaya on his back, by which Shatrunjaya became unconscious for a moment. Then gaining awareness, he with furious red eyes addressed Kubera. Shame on you, O Kubera! You are uncultured, inauspicious, and unrighteous by hitting me like a Rakshasa. Being on the right path, I cannot fight you with the mess. Mess fight, which, like the yogic path, has many rules and regulations, is commended as the best among fights. Watch me, I will immediately compensate for your action. Saying thus, he placed his iron mace on the ground. Then he pounded the chest of Kubera with his fist, by which Kubera dropped as if dead on the ground bleeding. Shatrunjaya then tied him in half a minute with a bunch of ropes. Then crores and crores of yakshas attacked Shatrunjaya with weapons in their hands to release their king. Then Shatrunjaya quickly destroyed all of them with his mace, just as the sun the group of devils. Then he carried Kubera and moved away. Hearing this, Pulastya came there and addressed him sweetly by calling him, O child, you have won Kubera by your strength in the war. Give me my grandson, who is lovable and dear to me. Viravrata will give the Brahmins whatever they ask from him. Then how you, his son, will not give him when I have asked for? Listening to the words of sage Pulastya, Shatrunjaya prostrated on the ground and offered Kubera to him and returned soon. In the same manner, Virabhanu fought with Jayanta. Both of them, well versed in war weapons, fought for a long time and surprised everyone by exhibiting their skills. In the sword fight, Jayanta was hit on his head by the strong Virabhanu and fell in the chariot. Saying that, his charioteer took away Jayanta. Then Shatruha, whose valor was laudable, battled with the most powerful Varuna by adopting many types of weapons. Varuna riding his crocodile and Shatruha his chariot were engaged in a wonderful great war that surprised everyone. Shatruha, after fighting very well for a long time with Varuna, injured him in his chest by 3 well sharpened arrows. The angry Varuna, who was thus hurt, killed with the 4 sharp arrows the horses of Shatruha. Then he destroyed the flag of Shatruha with 1 arrow and his charioteer with another, and hit Shatruha in his chest with a deep drawn arrow. Shatruha, who lost his flag, horses, and the charioteer, hit with great fury Varuna's crocodile on its head with a sharp arrow. He broke Varuna's bow with another arrow, and his crown with a different one. Then he injured Varuna in his temple with a long stretched arrow. From the forehead of Varuna, which was split by the sharp arrow, blood flowed with great force, and Varuna became unconscious. With that stream of blood from his forehead, Varuna was shining like the Himalayan mountain, oozing from its peak a red river. Then regaining consciousness, Varuna angrily tied the strong Shatruha with his infallible rope with great force. Then, seeing Shatruha being tied and taken away by Varuna, Samaratapana obstructed him on the way with arrows. Then the mighty Varuna, an expert in war, fought with Samaratapana for a long time, holding his bow and also the tied Shatruhana. Then Varuna, after destroying with sharp arrows the charioteer, the horses, and the bow of Samaratapana, went away with great speed. Samaratapana, holding a sword, pursued him and hit Varuna on his head with that sharp sword. With that blow, Varuna, with his head split, fell unconscious on the ground like a mountain with its wings chopped off. While Samaratapana was binding Varuna and taking him away, Yama, looking like a chopped black mountain, riding on his great bison and surrounded by lieutenants of death, diseases, and servants with ugly faces and limbs came there. People seeing that dreadful Yama, along with his frightening group, would die out of fear. Even after seeing Yama, the brave Samaratapana was firm like a mountain. He fought with Yama by riding on another chariot using varieties of weapons. After a long battle, he injured Yama in his chest by a long stretched half moon like arrow. Hit by that arrow, Yama fell down on the ground, vomiting foamy blood. His servants cried in agony. Then Samaratapana went near Varuna and decided to go away. Witnessing such an astonishing defeat of Yama, all gods and human beings praised Samaratapana with wonder. Then the soldiers of Yama and Varuna simultaneously obstructed Samaratapana from all sides. Seeing the innumerable groups surrounding him, he started driving them away with his huge mace. When they did not disperse, even after being driven many times, Samaratapana, using the wind missile, quickly drove away the Varuna's group. After driving away the group of Yama with the fire missile, as he was trying to return, thousands of the guardians of diseases enveloped to kill Samaratapana. Then Samaratapana thought that no other missile than the Namatraya missile would be of use, and discharged that against the diseases, by which all the diseases were totally destroyed in a moment, just as the clouds by a strong wind. Then the vehicle of Yama, the bison by name Mahakala, shying with anger, splitting the ground with its hoofs, discharging dung and urine, lifting its tail, rushed towards Samaratapana, making sounds characteristics to its breed to attack and kill him. Seeing the bison nearing him, the mighty Samaratapana abandoned his weapons, thinking them as unnecessary to fight an animal, and gave a hard blow with his fist on its head. With that blow, the bison, with its head injured, swooned a bit and again rushed towards Samaratapana. Then the bison, carrying Samaratapana between its horns, started running away. Watching that astonishing scene, the gods were glad at the defeat of Samaratapana, and the humans were sad, thinking that it was his end. Then Samaratapana, regaining his consciousness, quickly climbing on the bison, severely pounded its back angrily with his palms. Hit by the palms, its back got split, and the bison fell as if dead, with its eyes and tongue protruding and making a purring sound. When Yama, who got back his consciousness and saw the fate of his bison, and picked up his Kaladanda, the weapon of death, and proceeded to kill Samaratapana, then Sudrati, who was sure that the infallible Kaladanda would reduce Samaratapana to ashes, thought about what would be good for his side and quickly went near Yama. Seated on the elephant and questioning Yama about where he was going, Sudrati hit Yama with a sharp, long drawn arrow. Because of the injury to his right arm, with which Yama was holding the Kaladanda slipped and fell on the ground. As Yama was picking it up, Sudrati struck him on his head with another arrow, by which Yama dropped down with his head hurt. Gods and men appreciated that marvelous valor of Sudrati by loudly acclaiming, "Well done." Then Indra, seeing the supernatural powers of Sudrati, came on his Airavata to fight with him. End of the 17th chapter of the MahatmyaKhandam of Sri Tripura Rahasyam. Chapter 18. Approaching Sudrati, who was riding an elephant, Indra fought a long drawn, raging, and horripilating war. Seeing the bravery and skill of Sudrati in war, Indra was surprised. Then Indra showered Sudrati with 100 sharp arrows, just as the clouds rain on the peak of Meru. Covered by the cloud of arrows, Sudrati could not see the directions, nor the sky, nor the ground. Witnessing thus the son named Sudrati concealed by the cloud of Indra's arrows, the entire soldiers cried in consternation. At that time, destroying the shower of Indra's arrows by a mighty missile, Sudrati emerged like sun out of the group of clouds. Then he enveloped Indra by a rain of arrows and injured him with a bunch of sharp arrows. Indra too immediately ruined the entire wave of arrows by a powerful missile, just as clouds by the wind. Thus Sudrati and Indra, anticipating mutual retaliation, were eulogizing their strengths and weakness. Meanwhile, Sudrati, who was quick in action, cut off simultaneously with 3 sharp arrows the bow, quiver, and the crown of Indra. Then Indra, whose lips were throbbing with anger, put on another crown made by Vishwakarma. Then Sudrati quickly cut off that too with arrows. Again Indra wore on his head yet another crown given by Vishwakarma. Even that crown, and again many, totaling to 101 crowns, were shattered by the extremely powerful Sudrati, who hailed from the clan of Bhrigu Maharshi. Thereupon, with lowered face out of shame, Indra, burning with the flame of anger, discharged the Indrastra. Then quickly Sudrati destroyed that by Vayavyastra and pierced Indra's elephant with a long spear. Massively hit on its temple by the spear, Indra's elephant furiously snatched the bow from Sudrati's hands and broke it with its foot. Then the elephant was praised thus, well done, by the gods for its wonderful deed. While the elephant was trying to catch Sudrati by its trunk, Sudrati threw a huge iron god at it, which was smashed by that huge elephant. Indra too, wearing a crown, discharged a pad bolt at Sudrati's elephant. Hit by that, Sudrati's elephant angrily ran towards Indra, carrying a pounding weapon in its trunk, and was killed, hit by Indra's thunderbolt. Then, riding on a chariot, the mighty Sudrati struck Indra on his head with 3 sharp arrows, from which he swooned for a while. Sudrati injured again Viravarata with 3 arrows. Rising out of unconsciousness, Indra released a Shakti which carried 9 beautiful bells and was like a thunderbolt. Looking at that unfailing Shakti speeding towards him, Sudrati, holding his mace, quickly jumped up from his chariot like Garuda. At the same time, Indra's Shakti weapon reached Sudrati's chariot and reduced to ashes the charioteer, the horses, the flag, and the weapons. Then the strong Sudrati, with red angry eyes swirling his iron mace, severely hit Airavata on its head, by which it fell on the ground, vomiting foamy blood. Then Indra with his thunderbolt came running towards Sudrati, and Sudrati with his mace punched the right shoulder of Indra, by which Indra swooned, and his thunderbolt slipped away from his hand. Immediately when Sudrati was trying to carry away Indra, all the gods, wielding many kinds of weapons, quickly surrounded Sudrati. Then Sudrati, being brave, held with his left hand Indra, and with the mace in his right hand drove away the gods. Then Virasena said to Shatrunjaya, "O uncle, did you see the gods trying to kill Sudrati, who is carrying the bound Indra and is fighting all alone in the war? This is not the time to delay." Speaking thus, he directed his chariot towards Sudrati. Listening to the utterances of Virasena, Shatrunjaya and others attacked Indra's army by pouring weapons on them. Then a ruthless, fierce war ensued between gods and humans, thronged with weapons. In the process of attacking each other with mighty weapons like the sword, the trident, the spear, the mace, the disc, the axe, the missile, the padlock, the iron club, and the arrow, the heads and limbs of the host of soldiers dropped like ripe palm fruits by the wind. A dense darkness set in because the constellation was covered by the dust generated by the chariots, by the feet of the horses, the elephants, and the soldiers. Then none could recognize each other, and the skilled continued to fight following the sounds. Some fell down from horses, some from elephants, and many horses and soldiers were trampled upon by elephants. The blood emerging from such a pounding by the weapons flowed all over as if from a machine, and thereafter the dust subsided. Then and thereafter the dust subsided like after rain. When the darkness vanished, it was seen that those whose vehicles were lost had climbed different vehicles. The earlier charioteer was on an elephant, the one who was on an elephant was on a horse, the one on the horse on a chariot, and thus there was utter confusion. Those who had lost their vehicles and got onto whichever vehicle they came across were fighting for forgetting their own vehicles. By that intense combat was generated a terrific river of blood, full of froth and vortices, that flowed with great speed, like a great river joined by its tributaries. The huge river of blood, along with its smaller streams, had dead elephants as islands obstructing its flows, was infested with eagles, crows, and swans, had long hair and veins as its mosses, had the trunk of elephants as crocodiles, had the shields as tortoises, had the limbs of soldiers as sharks, had the fingers of the dead as small fishes, and was gushing, creating tremor in the hearts of the cowards. In such a battlefield, fighting to kill each other, the soldiers, having lost their weapons, used their fist, palm, nails, and teeth as weapons. Their eyes were wide open, with injured lashes and crooked brows. Some soldiers were running away with raised weapons. The arms and stomach of some were severed, some were without head, some fought holding weapons. When such a war was going on between gods and humans, Shatrunjaya and the children of the king and their children too, who were brave, entered the army of gods and tormented them, and reached their army chief Sudrati, who had bound Indra. They were surprised to see Sudrati, who was holding in his left arm the bound Indra, and fighting with his mace in his right hand, praising him, saying, "Well done, you are worthy of praise in war." The sons of the king arrogantly punished the army of gods. Unable to withstand the blows, the gods, discarding their weapons, ran away, crying in dismay. Then Kuvera, Varuna, Yama, and Chitrasena, supported by Vayu, Moon, and others, jointly fought for a long time, but were defeated and bound by the sons of the king. Shatrunjaya captured Kuvera, Shatruha caught Varuna, Bhima bound Chitrasena, and Samaratapana arrested Yama. Virasena took Jayanta into custody, and Virabhanu captured Vayu. The Vasus were held by Viragraga and Viravikrama, caught the moon. Taking all the gods, including Indra, into custody, they started taking them away. End of the 18th chapter of the MahatmyaKhandam of Sri Tripura Rahasyam. Chapter 19. When Indra and others were being taken away under custody, Kama prevented the kings by pulling his sacred bow. Some gods, some gods ran away, and some others had fallen down. The wives of the gods and Gandharvas yelled with fear, since Indra and other prominent gods were captured. Then Kama, pulling his bow, stopped the human beings and enveloped them by raining arrows and weapons. Then Sudrati and others, putting aside the bound gods, jointly fought with the powerful Kama. The 5-year young Kama, skilled in weapons, opposed alone all of them, which caused wonder. The humans, gods, and others were extremely astonished. Kama, using arrows with sharp, bright tips, destroyed one by one all the weapons and missiles of the opponents. Thus, beaten Sudrati and others, riding separate chariots, again fought with Kama with all their might. Simultaneously, they discharged sharp arrows at Kama, and Kama destroyed each one of them midway by means of arrows. Witnessing the great valor of Kama, Sudrati said, O sons of the king, listen. Vardhana had earlier said that this boy had killed crores of kings, and that he must be having divine power. We are today seeing the truth in that statement. Through Kama's strength, that single-handed he has hindered all of us of immense power. If our Lord and the King Viravrata does not return from his penance, even now we will be unable to conquer Kama without him. If our king, after getting the grace of Mahadeva, does not join us, Kama will surely defeat us soon. As Sudrati, the chief of the army, was speaking thus, the quick Kama immediately cut off his weapons by a sharp arrow, and injured him in his chest by another feathered arrow. Pierced in his heart, Sudrati fell unconscious on the ground like a tree whose root is cut. Then Kama, of unconquerable war skills, rendered unconscious Shatrunjaya, Shatruhana, Bhima, and Samaratapana by hurting their vital organs with sharp, poisonous arrows. Hurt and shattered by the arrows of Kama, they, without weapon and unconsciousness, totally embraced the ground like a lover his fiancée, and were unaware of in and out. Viravikrama and others, and the sons of Shatrunjaya and others, seeing the condition of their fathers, overwhelmed by sorrow, started wailing thus, O father, where have you gone, leaving us helpless? What shall we say to your father, who will also die, being unable to withstand your separation even for a minute? Seeing their misery, Randhira, the son of Sudrati, said, Listen to me with confidence. This is the time to show our strength and not sorrow. Depression destroys our valor, and the enemy will win over all of us. A soldier should fight till his death. Hence, renouncing sorrow, let us fight our best. Let Virasena go from here to report to the king. Seeing your sad state, the soldiers will disperse screaming with fear, discarding their weapons. Turn your mind away from grief by embracing courage. Hearing the words of the son of Sudrati, Viravikrama and others gained courage and proceeded to battle. After Virasena left for reporting to the king, the children of Shatrunjaya and others faced Kama. Then all the gods, seeing the defeat of human beings by Kama, boldly approached to set free Indra and others. Then Ranadhira prevented all the gods by raining arrows on them and invited all the human soldiers who were running away. He said, O brave soldiers, your unworthy receding is not proper, and you will face heinous hell being ungrateful to your king. Sacrificing your life is the way to clear your debt to the king. Even your wives will not accept you who have fled from war. Do not take to life saving which ruins you here and hereafter. So be brave and return soon. Return soon. Hearing Ranadhira, the soldiers returned. Again the fight between men and gods resumed and went on cruelly for a muhurta, 48 minutes. In between, Kama, by a rain of arrows, blew off the human army like the cloud. In between, Kama, by a rain of arrows, blew off the human army like the clouds in the sky by a wind. Hit by the rain of arrows of Kama, the human soldiers were unable to stand before him like clouds before the wind. Then Ranadhira, the valiant and highly intelligent son of Sudrati, spoke suitably to the son of Shatrunjaya. O son of the king, along with your brothers and the army, safeguard the gods and the men from the army of gods. See my strength fighting with Kama. Speaking thus and twanging his bow, he went in a chariot to Kama, pouring arrows on him. Then Kama, warding off that downpour of arrows by opposing arrows, shot highly sharp arrows at Ranadhira. Before those arrows could reach him, Ranadhira destroyed them midway, employing 3 arrows, and by another mighty arrow injured Manmatha's fist, by which the bow of Kama dropped from his hand. Seeing that everyone appreciated Ranadhira, even Kama, recognizing the valor of Ranadhira in the war, praised him thus, O strong one, you are worthy of praise. And placing a sharp arrow in his bow, the quick and strong Kama broke off the bow and arrows of Ranadhira. The furious Ranadhira picked up another bow. Then the powerful Kama simultaneously destroyed his chariot, the horses, the charioteer, and the bow by arrows in no time. Then Ranadhira, blazing with anger, ran towards Kama to kill him with his mace made of all metals, which was looking like a thunderbolt. Seeing Ranadhira thus approaching him, Kama created a downpour of sharp arrows like a dense cloud. Ranadhira also, consuming that rain of arrows like snakes by the Garuda, hit with all his might Manmatha on his head with the mace, and Kama giddily fell unconscious. At the same time, Ranadhira, too unable to move, being hit by Kama's arrows, dropped unconscious like a mountain hit by a thunderbolt. End of the 19th chapter of the MahatmyaKhandam of Sri Tripura Rahasyam. Chapter 20. Then Virasena saw on the way the king, and after touching his feet with his head stood dejected. Seeing the depressed beloved grandson, the king with blessings smelled his head and said, My child, why are you miserable? Are you doing fine? Is everyone in the city, including your brothers, fathers, ladies, soldiers, servants, treasury, priests, and ministers safe? Tell me soon, because my mind is sad seeing you pitiable. Hearing that, Virasena narrated the events with folded hands. O king, on the 4th day after you went, Kama, about whom you had spoken earlier, along with Indra and the army of gods, came and fought a fierce war with men. Then the gods fighting with Sudrati were defeated, and Indra, Maruts, and others were captured by us. Again, the powerful Kama quickly defeated Shatrunjaya, Sudrati, and others. In half a day, he destroyed our 50 Akshauhini army. The depressed brothers were then consoled by Ranadhira, who is presently fighting alone. Maybe by now he is also won by Kama, who had quickly subdued Sudrati, and the other eminent persons. How can Ranadhira battle all alone with the mighty Kama? Thus I have told you the incidents. Further action is yours. Hearing his grandson and asking him to be bold, Viravrata entered the battlefield repeatedly, twanging his bow. Then Kama also quickly gained consciousness. Seeing the king in front, Kama showered arrows like the downpour from the clouds on Meru mountain. The king also destroyed the rain of arrows by a retaliating shower of arrows and looked like the sun freed from a veil of mist. Then the king shot Kama with bright, sharp arrows that were cut off midway by Kama. After destroying those arrows, Kama hit the king with a high speed arrow, and the king broke it halfway through. Thus, a fierce battle ensued between the king and Kama. Seeing the king in the war field, all the soldiers, Sudrati and others, relieved of their swoon, rose up quickly, rejuvenated, and joined the king. Shatrunjaya and others saluted the king. The king who was fighting said, O Sudrati, listen, all of you are tired and worried after battling with Kama for a very long time. Now you guard very well from all sides, Indra and others from the gods. You will keep on watching me fight with Kama. Saying this, the king fought furiously with Manmatha. The war between them was like the one between Vishnu and Kaitava. Both used many mighty weapons and missiles, both of them wanting to win, fought fiercely by nullifying weapons with weapons and missiles with missiles. Both these masters of archery had impervious shields, unbreakable bows, inexhaustible quivers. They were mutually displaying skills and valor for 3 days. The war on the fourth day was violent, with the fire from the missiles pervading the worlds. Then the king was dwindling in strength, and Kama was growing with strength. Understanding his weakness, the king remembered and prayed to Lord Shankara, and the three-eyed god quickly sent his trident. The king picked it up from his quiver like an arrow, and thought it to be a heavy, powerful one. He also wondered as to how that heavy thunderbolt like arrow, which was never there before, came into his quiver. He also guessed that it may be Shiva, the lord of his clan, who has come in that form, thinking that he was tired. Thinking thus, the king fixed in his bow that thunderbolt like arrow, from which portentous fire sparks emerged. Then Kama's left side shook, and birds and animals made sounds of ill omen. The directions were ablaze, the earth trembled, and the atmosphere was covered with the dust. Looking at that unfavorable condition, Kama remembered and prayed to his mother Sri Laksmi, who sent guards for his protection. At that time, the king dispatched that blazing arrow. Even as the entire world was looking on that arrow, resembling the fire of dissolution, dropped on Kama as if burning the three worlds. Seeing that, all the gods cried in agony. That arrow consumed Kama like a straw by the fire. The bow, the pair of quivers, and all his weapons were reduced to ashes in a moment. Kama, charred to death, dropped on the ground like a person from heaven with exhausted merits. Then the servants who were sent earlier by Sri Lakshmi arrived there and saw the lifeless Kama fallen on the ground. They carried his unconscious body to Sri Lakshmi. Seeing Kama killed by the king, Sudrati and all others were extremely happy at the subjugation of the great enemy. All the soldiers beat kettle drums to mark the victory. Everyone, overwhelmed with joy, swelled like an ocean on high tide and went near the king, shouting slogans of triumph. Some prostrated before the king, some embraced him, some looked at him with love, and some conversed with him. When the army was thus jubilant, the king talked to Sudrati suitably. O Sudrati, collecting the four types of army, proceed first to the city, then arrange medical treatment to those who are injured by weapons. Perform suitable death rites to those who have sacrificed their lives. Bury the other cowards who were hit in their back while fleeing and died along with the animals. Ordering thus, the king climbed the chariot. At the same time, the guards, soldiers, chiefs, and generals moved towards the city, riding varieties of vehicles and holding weapons and dragging along the captured Indra and other guards and surrounding the king. The king, glowing with victory, quickly reached the city, praised by panegyrists and soldiers. Hearing about the victory of their king, the ministers speedily decorated the city and loudly declared the triumph. Vardhana, the prime minister, sent many fast messengers to many relatives and friends to inform the victory of the king. As ordered by him, the royal roads were decorated with arches, plantain stems, wattle stems, and idols holding lamps. Similarly, many offerings were made ready for worship at the temple of Sri Chandramaulishwara, their family deity. He ordered beautiful ladies dressed in white silk garments and wearing jewels to go in groups, some holding card and sacred rice, some with sacred jars, some holding many special types of lamps to receive the king. The family guru Vidyapati, along with learned Brahmins, arranged according to custom the materials required for sprinkling on the victorious king. After such an arrangement, Vidyapati, along with Vardhana and Brahmins, proceeded in a chariot to the outskirts of the city. Vardhana rode his horse. Other ministers, riding on elephants and chariots, proceeded. Gradually, everyone reached the city gateway. Meanwhile, the king, riding the decorated white-hued elephant by name Kularatna, which had four tusks and was born in the Airavata clan, moved towards the city. Shatrunjaya and other sons of the king and grandsons followed the king on their separate excellent elephants. Ranadhira in his chariot was in front of the king, complying with the orders of the king. The courageous Sudrati, riding an elephant and holding his mess, went behind the king with the army, along with the bound Devendra and other guards. The king, as he approached the city gate, saw the Guru nearby and alighted from his elephant and reached Vidyapati. Beholding the king getting down from his vehicle on seeing the Guru, Ranadhira, the sons of the king, and everyone alighted from their respective vehicles and followed the king. Going near, the king touched the feet of the Guru with his head. Then Shatrunjaya and others saluted the great Guru. Vidyapati, the expert in all branches of knowledge, after blessing the king, spoke to him. O king, the present time is said to be not suitable to enter the city. Hence, relax now and enter the city during next auspicious time. Listening to this, the king prostrated before him and said, Be it so. Then the Guru, alighting from the chariot, sat on a good seat under the shade of a nearby tree. As ordered by the Guru, the king sat not far from the Guru. Commanded by the Guru, Shatrunjaya and all others also sat. Then Vidyapati saw the gods in the chariot and asked the king thus, Who are these in custody? Listening to the Guru, the king said with folded hands, they are Indra and other gods who were with our opponents. Being defeated by Sudrati, they have been captured. Hearing the words of the king, the generous Vidyapati, thinking that deed as improper, spoke to the king, O king, listen. Your act of taking the gods under custody does not befit you. These gods are venerable to us because they are responsible for our fate. Bound for some reason, indeed, they are always unconquerable by men. Release them soon, and solicit by worshipping them suitably. Hearing the Guru, the king looked at Shudrati, who caught the intention of the king and quickly released the gods and brought them with respect near the king. Seeing them come to him, the king soon got up and saluted them in order and honored them with seats and worshipped them. Then the king submitted himself along with his kingdom, treasury, vehicles, sons, and all, and asked pardon for his ignorant act. Seeing the politeness of the king, the god spoke good words suitable for the occasion. O best among kings, you are blessed with such a devotion to the Guru. How can prosperity forsake you? By that devotion alone you will obtain all your wants. May you achieve your desires. We will proceed to the heaven. Speaking thus, Indra and other gods disappeared. Directed by the Guru, the king entered the city. End of the 20th chapter of the Mahatmya Khandam of Sri Tripura Rahasyam.